This week we're talking about Leonardo and the terrible monster. And so there's two vocabulary words that I really want to talk about this week that you're going to add to your vocabulary journal. Now, you're not going to have to write all of this. We'll talk about what you need to write in your journal. But I want to talk about what the meaning of these words are. So this word right here is candidate. If someone is a candidate for something, it means there's someone for the job. So in Leonardo the Terrible Monster on page 16, he says he researched to look for the perfect candidate to scare. So he was looking for the perfect person for the job, or the perfect person to scare, even though he was a terrible monster. If he could just find someone who is such a scaredy cat that he could scare them, then they would be the perfect candidate for the job. So what are some other words that mean candidate? Well, that could be an applicant. That's a big fancy word for candidate. If I was an applicant, I might also be a candidate. That would mean I applied for the job, though. A nominee, that would also mean that I would be a candidate, but someone said I would be good for the job. A contestant, like if you were playing a game, you might be a good candidate for the job if you were a contestant. Or a contender, someone who's up against someone. You might hear this word candidate a lot in the next coming weeks because we have two main candidates for president. There's a lot of other people that run for the president, but you hear about two main candidates. And you're going to hear about the word candidate when you're watching, if your parents are talking about the presidential election, or if you hear it on the news, you might hear this word come up in discussion, candidate. So, and that just means that these people that are running for president are people for the job. You would make an excellent candidate for our club. So that would mean you would be someone really good for our club, someone for the job. All right, you don't have to add all of this to your journal. I do want you to add the meaning to your vocabulary journal, and I do want you to pick one of these other words that you could use in your vocabulary for the word candidate. These are words that mean the same, which means they're synonyms. And then you don't have to write the sentence, but you might want to draw a picture right here that shows what the word candidate means. Okay, so you can draw a picture down here that shows what the word candidate means. Then the only thing you should have to write is the meaning and then one of the synonyms. Now this up here, these little bubbles for make it stick, anytime you hear this word throughout the week, or you use it, I want you to color in a bubble and see if you can fill up all those bubbles for as many times as you can use the word candidate. All right, the next vocabulary word that we're going to talk about is the word snapped. This one might be a little more familiar to you. Snapped really means to yell at someone. So in the story, Sam snaps at Leonardo after he tries to scare him. And he's saying, I got you, and Leonardo feels proud of himself and he starts to walk away. And then Sam comes back and says, no, you didn't. And then he snaps. He starts yelling all these things at Leonardo that happened in this story. All these things that happened to Sam, that has made him snap to yell at Leonardo, and he's yelling them out at him. So, and some other words for snapped would be to yell or yelled. Snarled means kind of like you do it kind of meanly with your nose kind of snarled up. Growled, roared, shouted. So you're going to pick one of these synonyms to add to your other words for the word snap. And then our sentence that we're going to use for this word is, I get to go first, snapped my sister. So what might that look like? You might want to draw a picture there to show what snapping, what your sister is snapping about, or your brother or whoever is yelling that at you. I get to go first, what that might look like. So it means to yell at someone. And those are the two words you're going to add in your journal for this week. And we're going to talk about these words all week long, candidate and snapped, and how they relate to Leonardo the Terrible Monster.